Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Midweek SPAC Price and News Update. This week was pretty exciting. We've got some news, we've got some rumors, we've got some merger dates, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we'll look at the price action for all of these stocks. So what do we have this week? We've got LCA, SPAQ, which we have every week it seems like. We've got HCAC, FMCI, and CCH, Collier Creek Holdings. So that's a lot of acronyms, but we'll look at all of them starting right now. All right, so let's open up with LCA Golden Nugget Online, which, as you guys know, is one of my favorite SPACs. And I think that this stock is flying under the radar. I honestly don't get it. If you guys hate it, please let me know in the comments. Explain to me why I'm wrong. I think that this stock is very underrated. The good news keep on coming. Before we get into the price action, I want us to talk about this month's report. So in New Jersey, because the government collects taxes, every month they report the amount of revenues that the casinos generated. So if we look for the month ended July 2020 versus 2019, the physical casinos did very poorly. Golden Nugget is down 54.6%. That's pretty terrible, right? It's like 19.4 million down to 8.8 million. That's a steep decline. But if we look at the iGaming performance, I'm blown away. 111.3% change, right? So 14.89 million last year, 31.48 million this year. That's more than double. That already in itself is amazing. But if we look at the presentation that they did when they merged, right? Look at the projected revenue. So for 2019, they said that they had 55 million in net revenue, but look at their projection for 2020. They only had 86 million. Well, we're much further along. The pace that we're at right now is much higher than their projections. And you have to remember that in an investor presentation, right, it's their own projection. So, of course, they'll be extremely optimistic. Well, we're ahead of that pace. To me, that's extremely strong as an investor. I'm blown away. Of course, you have to stay cool and kind of analyze it for what it is, right? It's probably going to slow down after the Rona. We all expect that. But for now, the numbers are absolutely phenomenal. So if we look at the price action, if you remember, long ago when I analyzed the stock, I mentioned that it would probably stay in that range, and so far it has. It dipped a little bit under the support, but it went back up, and it kind of stays around the support right now. So this week we had a little decline, but now with this news, after hours, it's up 4%, 49 cents. So for me, under 13, I'm actually going to buy more shares probably tomorrow, just to let you guys know. I already have some shares, but I'll probably buy more, especially if this trend continues, right? I like it under 13. I don't want to pay too much more than that, but for me personally, under 13 is a good price. And I expect that as we get closer to the merger, the stock's going to keep going up. So let's move on to SPAQ, which is going to be merging with Fisker potentially. It feels like I'm talking about this stock every week, but there's constantly news updates with them. So what happened this week? Well, if you guys remember when we talked about it last time, they actually had problems to get into their technology platform, right? They're trying to negotiate it with Volkswagen, but so far they've been unsuccessful. However, they still got some decent news. They actually signed a memorandum of understanding with a company in Europe called Magna to build the Ocean Fisker. So now they just need the technology, but at least they got potentially their means of production. It's not a definitive agreement, but they got at least the base groundwork done, right? Once they have the technology, if they sign up this agreement, then they'll have both the technology, the production, and then they can start creating their vehicle. But also, another news is I don't know if you guys are aware of this one, but they don't believe that they'll be able to do the merger in the allotted time that they had before, the 2 years. So they actually got an extension to February 14th. So that's going to be the next time limit is going to be February 14th, 2021. So they have until that period to actually accomplish the merger. So let's hope that by then they'll have all of their agreements and the pieces in place. Now, if we look at the price action, it's kind of interesting. What used to be the support is now the resistance. If you remember back here, it was the support. Then it fell after it was announced that they weren't able to get into the agreement with Volkswagen, which they're still in talks with them, but so far nothing concrete. But after that, this became the actual resistance, right? It bounced against it twice so far, so it just can't get above it for now. But it seems like it's kind of stabilized in that range, right? Right now it's at 12.23. So if you guys are still interested in this company, this is where we're at right now. This seems to be the ceiling until they actually find a real agreement to get their technology platform. So I'm not expecting too much for this company until that happens. Now it's rumor time. We've got Hennessy Capital, ticker symbol HCAC, which has had a lot of buzz and hype around it this past week. And you know why? It's because they actually filed for an extension with the SEC. But here's what we find in the filing. We have entered into a letter of intent with a prospective target for an initial business combination in the electric vehicle and advanced mobility sector. Yes, guys, another EV company. You know what that means? That means a lot of hype. So the companies that I've been following around is mostly Canoo. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this company. I'm not familiar that much with it, right? I've looked into it, but I'm not familiar with like their membership or what it entails. And I'm not that excited about the idea of the membership. I really don't know how it's going to work out. But what I do know, what's a lot more interesting, is they have a big agreement with Hyundai Motor Group they're going to work together on a technology platform. So you know when I'm talking about Fisker and I said that they don't have an agreement for their technology platform, and in my video where I talk about Lordstown, I say that they actually already have one licensed from a company in Europe that does the in-wheel motor. Well, this is the same type of thing that Canoo does, right? It's called a skateboard, so it's kind of like the undercarriage of the car, and then the company that licenses that technology builds the top of the car onto the skateboard, right? So this is the electric vehicle part of it that they license out to other companies. Well, they're going to be working with Hyundai Motor to develop this new platform, right? Which eventually Hyundai is going to use in their Ioniq model, and then potentially other companies also. So that's very, very good news for them if it's Canoo, right? So that to me is more has more potential than the membership. If they can launch millions of cars using this platform, they'll make tons of money. So the issue is that it's still a rumor. We don't know anything about the deal. We don't know the valuation. We don't know any of the terms. So for me, I would be very cautious. The way I would play this, because if you notice, people that actually bought the rumor, some people were very eager to buy right as the stock market opened. They're actually down right now. It hasn't done anything positive for the stock. So the way I would play it, I wouldn't be touching the stock itself, right? I'd go for the warrants on this one. Warrants are kind of like a 5-year call option. If it goes up, you'll get a lot of profits, and if it goes down, you have limited risk. So the thing is that you have 6 times more exposure for the same amount of money. Right now, for one share, right, you get about 6 warrants. So you have a lot more exposure for the same price. So your risk is a lot smaller. So personally, I would look at the warrants. They're still under $2, which I find fairly reasonable for this stock. And, it's on a trend up. So you see that there's some people that are smart doing SPACs are looking into the warrants right now. I think that's the better play, personally. Moving on to the FMCI, the Tattooed Chef, another stock I've been talking about a lot because I think it's very good. So we've actually got potentially a merger date or an approximate time where it's going to be merging. So they did a filing because they needed more time, so they asked for an extension. Well, here it says the company expects the closing of the business combination to occur in early October. So finally, we have an idea of when they're going to be closing in about a month and a half. So what happened in the stock? I mean, in this past week, this is when I last talked about this stock. It actually went up, and if you remember, these two lines are the downtrend that's been going on for since they announced the merger. Well, it actually trended above that line, which is very bullish, right? However, now it's going back down. If it stays above it, it's very strong. It means that it's consolidating, and then eventually, when it gets closer to the merger, which we now know is going to be in October, then it's going to be trending up. It's going to be very bullish. If it goes back under this trend line, in the short term, it's not necessarily a good sign, but then it might be another buying opportunity. I like FMCI. Now we finally know that we have about a month and a half left. I'm looking forward to this one. I've been wanting to do a full review on it, but sadly I haven't had time, but I'll try to talk about it more on the channel. And last but not least for today, we've got CCH Collier Creek Holdings, which is going to be merging with UTS. I've been told many times that I'm not pronouncing correctly, so I'm doing my best. UTS. Well, we actually got some good news. This one, we know the merger date, August 27, 2020. There's going to be the shareholder meeting, and that's when we'll be voting on merging, which of course we all anticipate is going to be a resounding yes. Now, if we look at the price action, there's really not a lot going on. That's the definition of UTS. That's why on Patrick's SPAC chart, it's on the side that's the least speculative SPAC that you can ever get because it's a mature, established company. You can expect slow and steady growth, eventually probably a dividend, but it's not a company that's going to have massive growth and double next year. So if we look at the stock price, I mean, it's been very stable around 1350 to 1450, right? It's barely moved since then, and you can expect a very small growth over time. I'm not sure if there's going to be a big pop with this one when the merger happens. I really don't know on this one because as you can see, there's no momentum upward or downward. There wasn't a huge pop when the merger was announced, and it's been flat since then. So this one might actually be good eventually to do iron condors on or credit spreads. We'll have to see, but it's very interesting. Very little movement. So with this one, if you want to get into this stock, now seems like it's one of the better times. I mean, it's probably only going to go up from there. Don't expect it to go down. I'm not sure if it's going to go up, but as we can see, there's no movement. So I hope you guys enjoyed these updates for this week. I hope it helps you. I mean, if you guys like it, tell me in the comments. If you hate it, tell me in the comments. I'm not going to hold it against you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about my 3 best SPACs for this August.